What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Sit Down Saturday, and today we are going to be talking about the Fanstoys Insecticons, the reissues. It's caused a lot of hubbub, it's caused a lot of stress, it's caused a lot of DMs for me, which is fine. It helps me realize what people want me to talk about, so I actually do appreciate it, even though it does get, by the end of the day, I'm like, yeah, I am aware. Thank you, sir. But I do appreciate it because it lets me know it's a hot button. It's a gift and a curse, really. So we're going to talk about the history of the Insecticons with Fanstoys a bit. We're going to talk about what the reissues might be. We're going to talk about a little supply and demand stuff. It's going to be pretty light on the slideshow kind of stuff because there's not a whole lot to slideshow about. It's just more of a conversation, really, about what this means, what this could mean, some pros, some cons, etc., etc., and the question that it'll ultimately leave us at. So before we get into that, though, we do have to get into a little bit of house cleaning. So for one, Sit Down Saturday last week with the Fanstoys versus XTransBots. I thought they were going to come from my head, but I think most people understood my point. It goes to show that something can be technically better and you can still appreciate something else and be fine. It really is a if you like it, you win sort of deal. Of course, there's always the people that say, well, you should give a point here for this and a point here for that. And look, anytime I do one of these, people are going to have that opinion, and I get it, but look, it kind of is what it is, to be fair. And I hate that saying. I hate it more than probably most of you know, unless you listen to Nerd Rage Radio. But this might be a case where that shoe happens to fit that foot. The Magic Square Bumblebee. I talked about the plastic. Every time I talk about Magic Square's plastic, people say that I don't understand the plastic. So I just got a bit of an education on the plastic recently, and I'm going to be doing a Sit Down Saturday soon on why it feels that way, what the difference is when they've wavered from that plastic, etc., etc. So I have a whole Sit Down Saturday coming soon about the different types of plastic. It's more of an educational and informative, because it was educational and informative for me. But I'm right. Spoilers. Anyway, today was supposed to be a versus for those Bumblebees. Unfortunately, that's going to get pushed back, so sorry about that. That's the way it goes sometimes. And as far as that Powermaster Prime, that is the last fan-made project that I had the opportunity to look at recently, so I do have one Lego set that's going to be like a bonus thing, but now it should be pretty much back to toys. But I mean, there's such a great amount of stuff. I mean, that and the pipes and the frenzy out there, and just great stuff. Love to see it. Love to review it. And with that, I think we can pretty much get down to brass tacks of this Fanstoys thing. So let's start off with a brief history lesson, right? They came out years ago. We got the bombshell first, and then the shrapnel, and then the kickback was the last one. I don't remember all their names. Grenader, Forager was kickback. It doesn't matter. Around the same time, Fanstoys was competing with both MMC and Bad Cube. The Bad Cube bugs were out. They had the kind of typical Bad Cube issues, overcomplicated transformations, and, you know, plastic issues, and much more about the puzzle than it was about the toy. That works for some people. It never really worked for me. MMC had teased their Ocular Max Studio Ox representations of them. They later changed that to reformat it for a number of reasons, I would guess, because by the time that they were ready to come out, the market was kind of saturated. They put it under the reformatted line instead of the Ocular Max line, and what we got was one of their worst releases of all time, in my opinion. And I think they know that too. They should have put the extra love into it. I think that could have been a great set from them. But when the Fanstoys ones came out, this was when Fanstoys was really making a name for themselves. This was during the height of it. I think Grenader won Figure of the Year for me that year, that being their bombshell. This is when it was like, oh, okay, this company is consistent. They're on to something. They've got it. It seems sophisticated. It seems like something truly special. And I think they were about 80 to 100 bucks a piece, if memory serves. I could be a bit off on that. Cheaper if you got it from 250 toys before he decided to leave the market. And of that Insecticon war, it was pretty obvious that Fanstoys were the victors, both from the fan perspective and from just the quality of product perspective. The only one that had QC issues kind of more widespread than most was the kickback, and even that seemed to be relatively hit or miss. Now, what we've noticed from Fanstoys recently is a number of reissues. We're getting a Quietus reissue. We got a Jetfire reissue recently, and multiple versions of Jetfire, which is just strange to me. Looks like we're getting a Springer reissue. Coincidentally, it seems right around the time that XTransBots seems to be putting out their Springer. That's the type of bullshit that Fanstoys should really try to stay away from, in my opinion. And like I said, right around the time that this video should be going out, most companies probably are getting their reissue of Quietus. Which does beg the question, why all the reissues? If 2020 was the year of Fanstoys hitting us over the head with releases, of most of which are all great in their own way, why is 2021 the year that seems to be the year of reissues so far, with the exception of Spindrift and maybe one other? Where's Dead End? Well, I've been very vocal here on this channel since the beginning that Fanstoys is going to have to really win me over with their combiners because of how heavy they tend to make their toys. That is, unless they make toys that aren't as heavy when it comes to the combiners. But guess what? They're heavy. All of them. Heavy. Every aerial bot, every Stunticon, heavy, which is great for the figure. When it comes to combine mode, we're gonna have to see how that plays out. My theory is that combine mode is not quite working out the way they planned. That now they're really trying to figure out how to make this thing sustain all of the weight that it has to. I don't know that to be true, just a theory. But if my theory is correct, what I would prefer Fanstoys do is release the figures and then release the combiner parts separately, a la XTransBots. Just try not to release it for 300 bucks. This way, at least, we could get the full team, while you figure out behind closed doors how to make it work, if it's possible. I mean, they put a man on the moon, right? And just recently, I saw a chimpanzee playing Pong. You see that? It's a crazy world we live in. And he was playing it with his mind, like not with a controller. It's nuts. So my theory is that a lot of these reissues are to recoup money to try to invest into figuring out how to make this combiner work. That's just my theory. I don't know. We haven't seen a prototype of this combiner at all. Just CAD stuff. And CAD supports its weight very well because it's weightless. Which brings us to the reissue of Insecticons. Sold in 2 sets. The Toon Accurate set, which is more expensive than the purple set, and it shouldn't be, but it is. For what BBTS had it for $529, which is $176 a bot. Quite the steep increase from their previous bot. About 100 bucks, give or take. Now, let's talk about that a bit. And let me be clear, 100 bucks per bot. The purple set was $429, which is about 143 bucks a figure. To be fair. So let's talk about that a bit. I have mixed feelings about this. Let's talk about how it's not justified. It's a re-release, so you're not creating new molds. Everything is sort of fine-tuned. There's no R&D element to it. You're just reproducing something that you've already put an investment into and already have the profits from, theoretically. So to overinflate the price doesn't necessarily justify the cost of production. I would imagine that this is the biggest recoup that Fanstoys will ever see. Also, the fact that they're only sold in the sets. So people that missed out on one bug now have to buy all 3. That's also a problem from a consumer standpoint. Now let's talk about how it is justified. The market is supply and demand, correct? I don't have a dog in this fight because I already have my Insecticons. But you can't get a Fanstoys Insecticon for 143 bucks for 170 bucks, whatever it was, on the aftermarket. You can't. In fact, some of the bugs have gone for the cost of the total amount of the set. That's a supply and demand, that's a market issue. Now, could they just be heroes of the people and put it out at, say, 125 bucks a figure? Which I think is more fair. Allow for a little inflation over the years, etc., etc. Sure, but they didn't, and I get it. Money is money. Never leave a dollar on the table. See, the truth of the matter is, and I know this is hard to hear, but we're lucky that they offered them again in the first place. They don't have to. Since they are, and they see what the market is for them, they're wetting their beak a lot. Maybe dunking the whole beak in the water. But I get it. My issue with this, from, once again, admittedly, not having a dog in the fight, has nothing to do with the price. It has everything to do with the quantity. Perhaps. So the other problem with this is that it's sold out on every site immediately. Shout out to Moose Cruise. He hit me up on Twitter about the reissue immediately and about the price. And the moment that I was able to see it and respond, I responded, and I just didn't even waste any time. I was like, look, if you need it, buy it. Do not let it slip past you. And I was definitely probably too late. Did I say definitely probably? I think I did. If he needed them, which I'm not sure that he did. The question is, why did it sell out in minutes? Well, because of the reputation of the product, because there's so many people that needed them. The collectors are a revolving door. So as people are getting out, your discs and so forth, new people are coming in, and they need the stuff too. And they see what the aftermarket cost is, so they're going to be on it. But if all of it's sold out on every site in minutes, one of 2 things is happening. And my question is, who do we blame? Either the production numbers are too low, keeping the market inflated. That would be a criticism for Fanstoys on my behalf. Or the distribution companies are not putting caps on how many you can order. And people are buying tons to sell on the inflated market. That's an issue with the distributors. And I can't answer that question. Why? Because I can't answer the big question behind all of third party, and that is, what are the average numbers for a production run? I'm estimating much lower, and I've said it here before, than people think, but this seems like a case where either Fanstoys severely underestimated the demand, or distributors didn't properly allocate the supply. Let me be clear. Not everything here seems to be on the up and up, but I don't think this is a case where there's any true villain, and it certainly isn't a case where there's any true hero. It's a bad decision made either on the company's behalf or on the distributor's behalf, in my opinion. And that's once again sitting from the sidelines and watching it sort of unfold. So that's my thoughts on that. I hope those that needed it got it. I don't know what else to tell you. You know, I always recommend the toy guy. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.